following video is going to take you through how we load data into a file in VB. This is going to really help you out on the pre-release material ready for the Comp 1 exam this summer. Okay, I'm just going to do a simple program then, and this is going to load data from a C drive. I've got a file called test.txt. I'm going to declare a variable, and this variable is going to hold the data for the next line that is input. I've got this as a string because each line will be a series of alphanumeric characters. I'm going to use a new command which is file open. With any command you can see what the parameters are that are needed as soon as we open the brackets. You can see there it's expecting a file number as an integer, then the file name, and it's got the other parts to that then. So we always start file number 1. If we've got two files that are going to be open at the same time, each file would have a different number. We're only dealing with one file in this program. In double quotes then, we put the path to the file. I'm going to put test.txt. If I didn't put a path, so if I didn't put C:/ and I didn't put the folders, anything like that, and I just put test.txt, it would look for that file in the bin folder of the file structure. So the pre-release material doesn't have a path to that file, so it will look for it in the root program. It's actually the bin folder it will look in. Okay, we put a comma, and we've got different open modes. Append opens a file so that we can add to the end. Append, add to the end. We're going to look at open mode binary at a later date. We're going to use input because we're actually bringing the file into VB. Output is if we create a file from VB. So we're going to use input, and we can close brackets then. So opening a file, we're going to call that file file1. That's the file that we're opening, and we're bringing it in. We're now going to use a do while loop to get the data out of the file. So do while it's not the end of the file and end of file 1. This is where I'm going to use my variable, my next line equals, and this is another new line of code, line input. We use that to read a single line from an open file. So we're going to read a line in from file 1. I'm actually going to display this straight away to the console. So I'm not storing it anywhere, just loading it in, outputting it, and that will carry on looping until it reaches the end of the file. And I'm going to close the file at the end. We should always close our files. Console readline, and let's test this out. Here we go. Hi, and welcome to loading data from a text file. Let's just check in the C drive. There's my test file. If we open that, hi, and welcome to loading data from a text file. So that has shown how we can load data from a text file. To expand this, we could, I'm going to create a new file now. I'll call this names. Bob, Mary, Fred, Jill, Juan, Laura, and Gwen. So there we go, we've got several names. I'm going to save that. So that's a text document, names.txt. We could adapt this program and instead have an array of names. I'm going to set that to say 8 as a string, and instead have another variable count as an integer. I'm going to change that to names. Count equals 0, so we're not going to use position 0. Actually, we will use position 0. Names count equals line input. I'll take that out of there and replace that with count equals count plus 1. So again, this is going to do the same process. I've got an array instead, an array of names. I've given it a size 8. We've not actually got 9 names in there. If we're working from 0, that gives us 9 positions. We've got an integer variable. I'm going to open file 1. That file is going to be names.txt. I'm going to open that as an input file, set count as 0, do while it's not the end of file 1, and it's going to keep doing this. It's going to take each line from file 1 and apply it to the array of names. It's going to increment count by 1 each time. At the end of this, I'm just going to do a for loop. For index equals 0 to let's say 7. I can't remember how many names I had in there, but that will cover them all. Consoles, right line, names in position index. So if we run that now, so each of those names has been loaded into the arrays. Once that file's closed, then it's output the contents of the array. So that is how we can deal with getting data out of a file into an array. You'll notice on the controlled or on the pre-release material for Comp 1 this summer that it's actually getting the data from a file and putting it into 2 sections of a structure. There's nothing to stop you having, if I take names 1, dim name 2, got these as size 8, but I won't need size 8. Just going to alter them a moment. There's nothing to stop you, say, doing another line input within that, and that would take every other name and put it into name 1, and every other name and put that into name 2. Take a copy of that. Okay, so if we look at the text file of names, we've got Bob, Mary, Fred, Jill, Juan, Laura and Gwen. Let's run this. That's because I've got an odd number of names in there. Let me just add another name. It's trying to read, because I've got 2 at a time, it's working in multiples 2, 4, 6, 8. I've got an odd number of names, so I'm going to add a further person here. I'm going to go for Bill. Okay. And then we've got, so we should have every other one to start with. Bob, skip 1, Fred, Juan, Gwen. Bob, Fred, Juan, Gwen. And then Mary, Jill, Laura, Bill. So I've been able to take each of those and split them into 2 separate arrays. And that's what it does with a deck of cards and the suits. So that is how to load data from a file. Quite simply then, we can alter this to save data to a file. I'm going to scrap all of this. I'm going to rename that align. I'm going to do file open, but this time my open file, I'm going to call this out.txt for the output. I'm going to open that open mode as output. I'm going to get the user to type in a line of code. I'm going to print that line to file 1, and that's what I'm putting to the file. File, close, file 1. If I run that now, I could type in Here is the contents of a new file being created. That's finished working. Let's have a look in the C drive. There is out. Load that up. Here's the contents of a new file being created. You can use that print line as many times as you like. We can put that in a loop. Every print line will be a separate line in the file. And there you have it. That is files in VB.